I'm just about to pass through the new Cambridge South station, which should be opening in only a few weeks' time. But I'm not here to focus on that today, as I'm heading to tick off the remaining stations I need on the line between Ely and Norwich, which is quite possibly one of the most awkward lines in the country, because many of its stations have a very infrequent service. I should point out that I am changing trains at Cambridge rather than Ely. Now the first stop on this line after Ely is Shippy Hill, which I walked to 5 miles along a road with no pavement from Littleport station in 2017, because at the time it was the least used station in the country with only 12 passengers a year. It's doing a little better for itself nowadays with 72 users, although that is only 4 more than what was the least used station last year, Elton and Alston. It only gets 1 train a day in the direction of Norwich very early in the morning, and 1 return service a week on a Saturday afternoon. And you cannot get a train from Shippy Hill to the next station on the line, which is Lakenheath, which is the first stop that I need to tick off today. Now, because of the awkward service pattern that Lakenheath gets, I've actually just passed through it fast, and I'm having to reverse here at Brandon, which I have done before when I travelled on the rest of the line in 2020. So it was 6 years ago the last time I was here at Brandon, and back then I was trying to stop at every station. It hadn't yet evolved into visiting every station, so I did the same thing of reversing here, but I did consider getting off at Lakenheath and walking back here, but Lakenheath was a request stop then. I would have had to kind of rush and reach the guard and tell him I wanted to get off the train. Luckily it's not that anymore. And also when I passed through Ely to get here, I realised this looks like a really nice place, so I thought I'm going to stay on and spend time exploring the city there, because you have the river and a cathedral, which is very nice. But now it is finally time to tick off Lakenheath. Now that is the first train to have stopped at Lakenheath in 6 days. This would have been a fitting Station 1000 if Shippy Hill set the groundwork for trying to visit every station, but alas, I'm still quite a few off. So you can see from the station signs that Lakenheath primarily serves an RSPB nature reserve, although there is an RAF site just down the road, and shortly after I travelled on the rest of this line in 2020, I was speaking to somebody from America who used to live in the grounds of the RAF site because of her father's job there. So having a look at the timetable then, you can see that on weekdays, Lakenheath gets absolutely nothing. Saturdays, there is just the 1 train at 15:56 towards Norwich. I came in on the 11:11. That's why I had to reverse at Brandon. And then on Sundays, how many does it get then? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 trains. So with only 5 trains a week in each direction, that makes Lakenheath the least used station in Suffolk, with 920 passengers last year, which is a very similar situation to Elton and Alston and Bottisford, how there are 2 least used stations together there. Similar thing here. Shippy Hill, just 1 stop up, is the least used in Cambridgeshire. You just can't get a train between the 2. And with no train from here for the next several hours, that means I'm going to have to walk back to Brandon, which is close to 5 miles. My train from there is at 1 minute to 2. I should make it. Oh yeah, there were 7 people who used that train at Lakenheath, including me. 3 of them were cyclists, and I overheard that they are cycling back to Brandon. Meanwhile, I'm just going to be walking along this track in the heat. In fact, this actually might be their trail. So I've made it back to Brandon Station with plenty of time to spare. I actually went to go and hang out down by the Little Ouse River for a while, which apparently was first known as the Brandon River. And intriguingly, Brandon Station seems to be in Norfolk, but the rest of the town is in Suffolk. Now you may have noticed earlier, but I didn't draw attention to it, but the station building here is currently undergoing renovations. And that's because only a few years ago did Greater Anglia want to demolish it to expand the car park here, but it got saved and it had become Grade 2 listed. Now the next station on the line is Thetford, which gets a pretty regular service like here at Brandon. And back in 2020 when I was travelling home, I was actually heading for London from Peterborough, not Cambridge, and all the apps and whatnot were saying change at Ely, but I realised the train to Peterborough would also call at Thetford, so I thought I would change there for the sake of ticking off another station. So I have been to Thetford in the dark, and I don't have a photo of it, so as I pass through, I'm going to try and get a station sign photo for the collection. The next two stations then are ones which have a very infrequent service, so much like Lakenheath, we're going to bypass them to get to Attleborough and then reverse to tick them off later. It's so excruciatingly hot on the platform that I've come to stand in just this little bit of shade here from the station building, and that's exactly why I went to go and hang out by the Little Ouse River, so I'm not here for as long.
Recently, I didn't have any that's why I didn't drink that because I didn't want to go.
Okay, so not all the stations on this line is awkward. This is the only regular stop left which I've not ticked off. Attleborough, which I kept getting confused with Attenborough station when typing it in to see when my train was due here. I quite like this station. It has a signal box down there. I'm liking the colouring on the old station building, and it really is an old station building. It's entirely been stripped away in there. Maybe it'll be restored like Brandon's. It's funny looking at the Greater Anglia map, you see a little diamond for limited services down there. You find them nowhere else on this map apart from this line. Shippey Hill, Lakenheath, Harling Road, Eccles Road and Spooner Row. I think the only other stop is Buckingham, which is a similar situation, just for an RSPB land, and there are no services on weekdays. Oh no, I stand corrected, there are ones at Seven Kings, Seven Sisters and Waterbeach, but they're primarily served by other train operating companies rather than Greater Anglia. Also, that prediction has gone way out of the window. It's not open yet. Oh, I just noticed there's a memorial as well to a bomb group up there. That's nice. Now I did consider going up to the next regular stop on the line, which is Wymondham, which is the penultimate station before Norwich, even though it's actually spelt Y-Mond-Ham. But I felt it wasn't really worth spending an extra £3.50 or something to really only spend 10 minutes there before I come back, especially as I've been there before. And I wouldn't get to really do it justice because there's an old abbey there. There's also a heritage railway that would have went up to a town called Dereham. It surprises me that that town has no station anymore, but yet stations like Shippey Hill and Lakenheath still exist. So actually, I've come up with the idea now to one day go and visit Dereham, potentially start in Wymondham. It would be good to also do a Norwich walk at some point as well, which is where I headed on that 2020 trip after Brandon and Ely. And then I did jump out at Wymondham on the return and took a walk to Spooner Row, which is another of the awkward stations. Last year it only got 686 passengers. There are only 2 return trains a day, although only one on a Saturday, and I do think it's the one which also stops at Shippey Hill, the once a week Saturday return service. It is also the one to stop at the next 2 awkward stations for me, the only 2 I need remaining, Eccles Road and Harling Road. But I now have an hour and 20 until that, so I'm just going to go for a bit of a wander around Attleborough. I don't think there's much here, to be honest. Now, it's not the longest walk into the town centre. There really isn't much to it, to be honest, but I might as well, given I have the time. Attleborough does have a nice village sign though, so it was worth coming down here to have a wander around. This might be one of the coolest little mile markers I've ever seen, because it mentions just so many places: Harling, Thetford, Bury St Edmunds, Newmarket, Cambridge, London, New Buckingham, Tibbetshall, there's a place called Harleston, Ipswich, Besthorpe, Bunwell, Fawncett, Long Stratton, Hempnall, Bungay. I've never heard of any of them. And then Norwich, Wymondham, Hingham, Watton, Dereham, Swaffham. I can guarantee I've pronounced at least 2 of them places incorrectly. I've had time as well to come to the south side of the station to hunt a geocache which is hidden in this tree here. There's also a second one which is tucked right in these bushes in this tree. I thought this was it. This was placed right there, but I mean, there's nothing to it. I think someone's emptied the cases of it. What's this bag? Oh yeah, look. That's where you write your name. And then is that the lid? How's that come undone then? I'll put this back together for them. And I've made it back to the station with a good 20 minutes to spare still, so that's enough time to have a bit of lunch and water whilst I chill out in the shade, because I'm going to need a little bit of a rest before I tackle the walk between the next 2 awkward stations.
Welcome to this service for Cambridge. We will be calling at Eccles Road, Harling Road, Thetford, Brandon, Shippey Hill, Ely, Cambridge North, and Cambridge.
And I am the only person who got on or off that train, despite Eccles Road being the most populated of the least used awkward stations so far, with about 1.5k passengers a year. So looking at the timetable again, you can see that Eccles Road and Harling Road gets 2 trains in the morning, an hour apart. That's just they're on different days that they operate. On Saturdays, it's the same thing, slightly longer than an hour apart. Sundays, nothing, but the return is when it gets interesting. There they are, 2 hours apart. The second train used to be an East Midlands service. I just noticed this timetable says East Midlands trains. Why have they never updated it to say railway? I think East Midlands services now stop at Wymondham, Attleborough and Thetford. I don't think they stop at Brandon. But that's curious. Why did it stop at Harling Road and Eccles Road in one direction only? And is there any other train operating company which does that anymore? I'm sure you'll let me know if you know of any. So, I have 2 hours to walk to Harling Road station, and it is a 4.5 mile walk, which should take about an hour and a half. So let's go. What's perhaps even more intriguing about that strange East Midlands service is that Eccles Road doesn't actually exist. We're on a station road here, which I'm going to have to walk down now to reach Harling Road. It seems like that wasn't always the case though. Eccles Road has won the Best Small Station Award in the past, and that says it's called Eccles, so it must have opened as just that. I'm almost at the end now, which I'm so happy about because I'm so tired. And I've come across a plaque for another airfield, which I didn't know existed. Harling Road, which is right at the base, for a village sign for Rowden. And at the back, we have a geocache. And here we are. I've made it to Harling Road station. The busiest of the awkward ones on this line, with 1.7k passengers, but that actually halved in last year's statistics. Maybe a family who had an annual ticket moved away or something. Oh, is Harling Road station on Harling Road? What? I mean literally, Watton Road? Okay, I was going to say that I find it quite unusual that these two stations have road in their name, because you don't often find that on the National Rail network. You'd more find it on the London Underground or the trams. But I guess that's because a place usually is served by just the one station, so the station is named after the village or the town or the city. Well, I guess that actually there's a lot of major city terminal stations named after streets. Liverpool Street, Birmingham New Street, but not road, not often road. I guess because here it's so far away from Harling, it's kind of like, this is the road to Harling. Same with Eccles. Okay, this is incredible. I already liked Harling Road for having the old school signs. There's actually kind of 3 different signs on this station, surprisingly. But I have never seen one with the Regional Railways brand on before, still in situ at a station. That is incredible. That is enough to make Harling Road my favourite station of today. I did think Attleborough would be the one to be favourite station of the day today, but no. I'm a sucker for old logos on signs. In terms of least favourite, I mean, I know it's not a new one for today, but probably Brandon. I don't know, it's a bit of a cramped station, but maybe once they restore the station building, it'll be nicer. So, if that's the case, I'll probably go with Lakenheath because the platforms were quite narrow. The quirkiness of having no trains on weekdays is not enough to make it a good station. It's still a bad station. But there we go, that is the line between Ely and Norwich complete for me. I'm very happy to get these awkward stations done. It would have been a real pain to have come back and done another time, because it was very much a box ticking exercise. I didn't come out here for a walk today, I came out here for the stations, where I just so happened to do a long walk between them. Usually it's kind of the other way around. But that's 4 more to get towards visiting every station in the country. And I guess the next awkward line in England to complete is the stations out to Skegness. But I have a sneaky plan to tick off some of them, and hopefully we'll get around to it at some point this summer. So I'll see you then. Thank you for watching. Oh yeah, by the way, only one person got off at Harling Road. I was the only one who got on. When I was speaking about the train times for Eccles Road and Harling Road, I was actually showing you the timetable at Attleborough station, just so I could set off on the walk quite quickly and not have to rush by getting all the video clips whilst I'm there.